My Steven, my Steven, my Steven, my Steven and me.
Kid Eller, Kid Eller,
Oh.
Kid Eller and me.
Welcome, Dad and lovely listeners, to your absolute favorite horror movie review podcast in all the known multiverse. Dad and lovely, here with your host with the most. It's me, good old Uncle Ben, and who's that? Gosh, who is that extremely handsome sounding voice I got on the other end of this line? Is this John Hamm? Who is this?
It's me, John Hamm. Hi. I went to the University of Missouri. I don't know any other facts about myself.
You're an imposter, I can tell, because they don't say Missouri, they say Missouri.
Missouri, I apologize. No, it's me, Hollywood Steve Spratling. Woo!
You telling me this is Wolfpack Steve from out there in the Hollywood Hills? That's who I've got?
NWO.
Are you still the reigning champ out in them hills, Steve?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I walk around every day with my belt. People stare. Jealously, probably. I don't know.
How many times did you pile drive Delilah this week?
That bitch, listen, she called me out. I don't know if you heard about this.
I saw this.
You heard
She's
about
talking
this?
shit.
She called me out. She's talking shit, that Delilah. She wants just me at SummerSlam. So I tell that bitch, bring it on. Let's do this at Royal Rumble. Why wait until summer?
Shoot.
Let's have a hair versus hair match.
Damn.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to cut your hair, Delilah.
I'm into it, man. I cannot wait to see this gender-bending, hellacious Razzlin event.
Yeah, it's going to be like that tennis match, the participants of which I do not know the names of, but one was a man and one was a woman.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that because you're talking about the tennis match featuring old Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs.
That's right.
That was talked about in the movie Battle of the Sexes, which I saw today.
Really?
I did. That's amazing coincidence that you just happened to bring that up.
Huh. Did you enjoy it? Was it good?
It was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good, man. Steve Carell is the shit. He's fucking awesome. And Emma Stone is wonderful. And I think she's great.
You like Emma Stone?
I didn't really know anything about the actual story of the entire match. I just knew that it was a major shit-talking event, you know, man versus woman kind of thing. And I knew that she won in the end. But other than that, I didn't really know anything about it. So the movie kind of explores a lot of the stuff about, like, her life and what she was going through at that time period where I guess she was also kind of figuring out that she was a lesbian at that point too.
Yeah.
So that's like a really big part of the movie and stuff. It was really interesting. It was a really interesting portrait of blatant, ridiculous sexism that existed back then, but then at the same time also still exists today.
Absolutely. Because we still don't play co-ed tennis.
And we have the grab 'em by the pussy guys president. So there's
that. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. Our president wants to grab them all by the pussy.
Yeah, you
Gotta
can
grab
if you're
them all.
rich.
Well, that's true. You got, as he said, you move on them like a bitch.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that means.
Listen, somebody's got to tell him these pussies ain't Pokemons. You can't catch them all, dude. That's not the objective.
I don't know. I used to be Mormon. I'm pretty sure that is the objective of...
Wives, gotta catch them all.
Wives, gotta catch them all. No, Mormons don't do that anymore, guys.
It's
Get
true.
off their backs.
It's
Unless,
true.
of course, they're any of the numerous offshoots of Mormonism that all offshot because they want to keep doing that.
Yeah, that's kind of their jam. It's kind of working for them, so they kind of want to keep going for it, you know?
Yeah, it's like, I don't understand. I enjoy marrying my 12-year-old niece. What's wrong with that?
I mean, hell, dude, we've seen worse on Game of Thrones, and that shit's popular as hell.
That's true. Oh my God. That's all those like Mormon sects need is to just become a reality show and everybody be like, oh, this is great.
Do you think that like all these fundamentalist Mormon families out there are like wiping the sweat off their brows being like, damn, they're really taking the heat off of our style of family unit?
Do you think they're watching Game of Thrones and they're like, yeah, this is great. This is awesome. I enjoy this.
Now that's what I call romance.
Where's my twin brother? Let's do this.
Ooh. But yeah, Battle of the Sexes was good, man. I definitely enjoyed it. Some really great performances in there, and it really stuck to like the super 70s aesthetic. Like it didn't look like a 2017 movie. It looked like a, you know, early 70s kind of flick, really unsaturated, grainy film look and stuff. It was definitely good. Have you watched anything good this week?
Yeah, I watched a couple of movies. I finally saw Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Oh yes, did it get good to you?
Oh yeah, it's great. I enjoyed it. It is a little long if you pay attention to the time, but if you don't pay attention to the time, I think it flows well.
I gotcha.
And Michael Keaton is great.
He destroys
as Vulture. Yeah, I really liked it. I thought, obviously, Tom Holland is amazing. And I don't mean director of Child's Play Tom Holland. unless that kid directed Child's Play as a sperm, I would imagine.
He was just a tadpole with a dream and a camera.
Yeah. But, Tom Holland's great. I think we've said this before, that he's just great for Spider-Man. I mean, finally, he looks like a teenage boy. He acts like that perfectly sort of snarky, smart, but also, like, good guy element of Peter Parker / Spider-Man. I really liked it. I had a lot of fun watching it.
How tense was that scene? And I'll try not to spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but that scene where he picks up his prom date, how fucking tense was that shit?
Oh my god, yeah, that was real and they played it so well. Because, the only two people that should be tense are, we get Peter being tense immediately because he knows who he's looking at.
Right.
But you also get the Vulture slowly realizing who he's looking at.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah, it's a real good scene. I really enjoyed it.
I did too, man. I thought that was awesome. It's cool too that like the most intense scenes of the movie, neither of them are in their costumes. Like it's not them being superheroes fighting. Like it's just like them as two people that know secrets about each other. And I think it's probably the most like intense scene I've probably seen in a Marvel movie, honestly.
Yeah, and not to give too much away in case somebody hasn't seen it, but there's a scene where Spider-Man is basically covered in rubble.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And it has a moment that it has been kind of missing since Iron Man 1, which is a moment of extreme vulnerability for our hero.
Right, yeah, where you're like, I think he might be fucked.
Yeah, Iron Man 1 has that with, the him getting bombed in that Humvee and then, in the cave where he basically, if that battery goes off, his heart will get shredded. He's in an extremely vulnerable moment, and then he uses his power, which is just his intelligence, but he uses his power to get out of it. The same thing with, Spider-Man Homecoming. He's in this real intense moment where he's never displayed the type of power that he needs to display in this moment, and he gives up for a second, which is like it's good. I mean, that's how any teenager would react in that moment. Like, they've not had the experience, gone through as much hardship and stuff to realize that, like, I can't give up. I have to figure something out.
Yeah.
He gives up for a little bit and then, like, really goes for it. And I thought it was a very effective scene.
I think that what you're talking about with his lack of experience is one of the things that I really liked the most about that movie. Is because if you were a 16-year-old, right?
Right.
With suddenly these superpowers, you would not ace it every time immediately. Like, most of this movie is him fucking up, actually. Like, he only gets it right maybe 10 or 20% of the time. And then all the other times it's him, like, either abusing his powers or being stupid or just making bad choices. I really liked that about it because I thought that was just very realistic for what it would actually be like to be a teenager with those kinds of powers. I'm glad that you dug it. I definitely hope that we explore more of him as Spider-Man and that writing team and that universe that they've set up for us.
I was also happy that they didn't show that scene where they kill you every time.
Yeah, good old Uncle Ben, man. He was already gone when it kicked off.
Yeah, I was glad they just skipped it. Like, there was nothing.
I've had enough,
no reason. Yeah, there was no reason to show our poor Uncle Ben getting killed again. But, I mean, maybe he doesn't know now, though, that with great power comes great responsibility.
I watched a bunch of other good stuff this week, Steve, too, because it's, as we record this, we are just getting into the month of October.
Woo!
And it's October 2nd now because it's past over midnight, but today was October 1st. So my wife and I celebrated by watching the OG Halloween while we ate some fajitas, which was a fantastic choice.
Yeah.
Always a fucking winner. Damn it, I love that movie so much. If you haven't already, be sure to go back and listen to our Halloween episode that we did a couple months ago, listeners.
Mm-hmm. You get to learn about my Pooh Bear fetish, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. We love some Pooh Bear, man, some Donald Duck, and and we also watched the original fucking Ghostbusters recently too.
Awesome.
It's just one of the fucking best, dude. It is.
It is so good. That movie is so good.
I totally agree, man. I don't think anything really has been made before or after it that mimics that same tone, because it's like it's really funny, but it's dry funny. It's like scientist funny, you know?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I've seen that movie so many times.
Yeah, totally.
And every time I watch it, like, something new pops out to me. Like the last few times I've watched it, one of the things I noticed was, wait a second, is Ray walking around with a cigarette in his mouth just to drop the cigarette comically?
I think so.
Because we don't see him smoke any other time, I don't think.
No,
He's
I don't
just
think
got
so.
this cigarette, and then suddenly he comically drops a cigarette.
Is it when it's like kind of like dangling off of his fucking lip?
Yeah.
It's so good, man. And the special effects in it are so fantastic, and the soundtrack is amazing.
Yes. And like, I'm still amazed at the fact that first off, Ghostbusters is a comedy, and people took it as such, but it has horror movie elements.
It does,
for
exactly.
Sure. It has a lot of them, in fact, and it ends with, you know, a demon gate opening and Zool and all that stuff, and like all of that stuff to me seems like it would be so outside of what the average person would want to go see at the theater, but it wasn't true. I mean, Ghostbusters did so well
it did.
at the theater. It's like almost like it was. It's like it's Guardians of the Galaxy of that day.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, where it's like it's a legit genre movie, like how Guardians of the Galaxy is a legit good sci-fi movie, but it's funny, but it's intelligent, but kids can watch it, but adults can watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, anybody can jump in and watch it and enjoy it. And like, there's so many interesting levels to it and stuff. Yeah, Ghostbusters is great.
Awesome. I'll tell you how I know I've gotten wiser as I've grown, Steve, because when I was a kid, I like Ghostbusters 2 better than 1. What a fucking idiot.
I understand that. I actually, when I was little, I liked the Ghostbusters cartoon the most.
Oh, shit, yeah.
And then it was tough for me. I do think I probably did like the second one better because it's more comical. It's not as good of a story for sure.
No.
And if you watch it now as an adult, you're like, why did I like this? But if you think about it, it's like, well, they're all these wacky ghosts. That's what we liked.
I think I liked, too, that there was like a painting in it, since I was all about art and stuff like that. I think I like that aspect a lot.
And you were like, I'm going to get me some of that slime stuff and paint with it.
Oh, man, dude. Yeah, so we've been watching all kinds of good stuff. I'm excited, as we get into October, because that's when we, of course, watch the most scary movies and stuff like that. So we're going to be watching a whole bunch more here as we go along this month. So as we do our Halloween episodes, be sure to expect a lot of updates about what other great shit we've been watching lately over here.
Now, let me go ahead and recommend that you don't watch something that I watched this week.
Yeah?
Jeepers Creepers 2.
So you put yourself through watching the second one.
I did. You
didn't pay for it, did you?
Hell no.
Fuck yeah.
Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum, I say. What I've heard from people on the Instagram and on our Facebook page that Jeepers Creepers 2 was really the movie they liked. And I watched it, and you know what? It is better than the first one.
Is it?
But it's better only minimally. Like, there's more action and less of it. There's less to question. Because when we were watching talk about the first one, the real question was, like, so all the people in the town have to know about this.
Yeah, surely.
Right? And they're basically just covering it up. But then, like, there's no display that they're covering it up. It seems like everybody's completely surprised by it.
Yeah.
In the second one, they just kind of eliminate that and make the story smaller, which helps.
I'd say so.
But it's also more child molesty.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that.
The first victim is a boy who I think is supposed to be 14 in the movie. The actor himself was 15.
Yuck.
Which I don't know how that happens.
Dude, that's the thing. I don't understand that. Like, if you're a convicted fucking child molester, as the director of Jeepers Creepers is...
Yeah.
Then, you know, you have all kinds of rules and regulations. Like, you can't go within so many yards of a fucking school or daycare or anything like that. Like,
yeah.
How do the rules get bent so much that you, a convicted child molester, can have a fucking 15-year-old on your set?
You know, I read a theory today about Jeepers Creepers 1.
Okay.
Which I found to be just a great... like reading of the movie, and I wish I had written he was just a commenter on AV Club, but I wish I had written down the username. Anyway, basically his theory is that Jeepers Creepers 1 is a hate letter to the kid that Victor Salva molested.
Oh, like the kid that turned him in or whatever?
Yeah, and basically Justin Long is that kid. And really, the ending where he steals his eyes and then looks through his eye holes is like basically his way of saying, Francis Ford Coppola is my executive producer, and you don't have a career in Hollywood anymore. Fuck you.
It's like, I'm the one looking at you through the screen.
Yeah,
here. I'm the one on the big screen, asshole.
Also,
it's disgusting.
God. I don't want every week to become Jeepers Creepers disgustingness, but apparently he had been molesting that kid since he was 6, so for 6 years.
Holy shit.
And Victor Salva, when he was booked as a child molester, was listed at 6 feet tall, 350 pounds.
It's a large man.
Yeah, that's a very large man.
Did you see his mugshot? He's like fucking smiling in his mugshot. Ugh.
He's smiling. Well, revolting. I guess you would too if you knew that when you get out of jail, not only will you make a movie for Disney, but you'll also have 3 horror movies that make so much money, and they're executive produced by Francis Ford Coppola.
That's fucked up.
Like, come on. That's insane.
You just gotta quit. You know, Hollywood has just gotta quit enabling disgusting people to keep getting work, dude. I just can't believe it. And now, you know, of course we got that 3rd one coming out, and I've heard rumors that he's slated to do a 4th one too, and it's like, guys, quit. Just quit. Yeah, it's already been approved. The 3rd one apparently had some lines cut out, and one of the lines was basically about a girl who had to leave her stepdad's home because he was trying to fuck her. And Dude. One of the characters said the heart wants what the heart wants. No, man.
Yeah, so they had to cut that out for the theatrical release, but apparently they shot it. So it got so far as everybody was like, yeah, no, this is fine.
This couldn't mean anything else.
Yeah, there's no way convicted child rapist Victor Salva could possibly mean anything by this. Anyway.
Dude, that is way fucked up. But you know what else is really fucked up, Steve, is our movie of choice that we're going to be talking about here on the show
Hell
today.
Yeah.
Child's Play from 1988.
Woo-woo. That's right. A little Chucky.
I had a good time watching this one, man. Now, let me ask you, Steve, was this the first time you ever watched this flick?
Oh, no. I've seen this. I probably saw this in 88. I remember watching this growing up.
Wow. So you saw this when you were like a little kid.
Yeah. This actually... I'll be honest with you, as far as horror movies that little kids might see go, this is one that doesn't have boobs in it.
True.
No boobs. We know people hate for kids to see boobs.
Not that.
I mean, it's got violence and blood, but that's no big deal.
Yeah, kids can deal with that.
Right? But it also teaches you that your toys are evil and you should run from them.
It kind of did. I'm so glad that I didn't see this when I was a kid, man. I'm so glad.
You had a My Buddy doll sitting in the corner?
Well, I mean, I've already talked about my Snuffleupagus doll issues and stuff like that. Like, I think that seeing this at age 4 or 5 would have kicked that into, like, fucking hyperdrive, you know?
Oh, absolutely. It did that to me, obviously. Like, I've said before that I had a fear of dolls before even seeing Child's Play, and then afterward it's just like, oh, fuck dolls. Get them away.
I think that I saw this the first time probably only about 10 years ago. I think I was probably in like my early mid-20s whenever I saw this the first time. And I liked it. I remember this is one of those ones that, like, right as I was getting into horror movies, I watched this one and I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. But then, you know, I watched it again, probably just for the second time last week, you know, in preparation for this episode. And I was really pleasantly surprised. I'm like, I really enjoy watching this flick, man. And I don't know, I kind of gravitate usually towards the typical, you know, big badass monster kind of baddies like a Freddy and a Jason and stuff like that. But this little doll has great effect to it.
It absolutely does. And it easily could have been a bad movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been the mom trying to convince the police for an hour and a half that the doll was real. It easily could have ended with the doll not being real and the kid was actually the killer.
Right.
And like, those things would have just been like, fuck this. This is so dumb. What it did do was it has cops who are they're obviously cautious about the idea that a doll came to life and killed people.
Yeah.
But convinced on sight. And that is not pushed off until the end of the movie. It happens somewhere near the middle.
Sure.
So we have everybody's on board. What I hate in a horror movie is when, like, the thing that's killing people is so hard for everyone to accept as real, and like the whole movie is basically just convincing people that it is real.
Right.
That's not what happens here. A doll is killing people. It has, it has this agenda that we learn about slowly. It slowly gets revealed. We get to know more about this serial killer, Charles Lee Ray. Is that his name?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, and like we get everything revealed over time. There's not a big drag in the movie, and any of those things could have easily happened in this movie, but instead what we get is just a great fucking toy come to life killer movie.
Totally so, man. And like I said, I'm glad that I didn't see it, because I think it also would have made me very cautious and scared of my own childhood favorite toys and so on, because I know it did that for a lot of other people kind of in our age group. Did. Now, before we start getting into the movie review portion, I kind of want to spend a minute here, Steve, and maybe let's create a little list. Maybe let's say a top 3 list.
Okay.
Of our own favorite childhood toys that we had when we were kinder kids.
All right then.
What do you think about that?
I would love to do that.
All right.
I loved toys as a child. Didn't have a lot, but I loved them.
Well, I'm going to put mine out here in kind of broad groups, because I think if I got very, very specific, it would be very hard to narrow it down. So I'm going to put my first entry on my list as action figures. Don't call them dolls, Mom. Don't call them dolls.
You're going to say all action figures?
Just all action figures, man. I'm talking about like a fucking Ghost Bust. I'm talking about a Teenage Ninja Turtle. I'm talking about a He-Man.
Obviously. You didn't have a favorite?
I don't think I really did, because it kind of depended on the phase. Because it's like, there was a long time where the Ninja Turtles were my jam, and there's a long time where the Ghostbusters were my jam. I also had a really huge thing for Swamp Thing when I was a kid, which was kind of an odd thing to like really zero in on.
No, I get it. Yeah, that's awesome.
I had actually forgotten about my childhood Swamp Thing obsession until... Actually, it's really funny, and I'll discuss this more as we go on, but I'm always joking around about being homeschooled and stuff, and I was, of course, but I actually went to public school for kindergarten and first grade. And in that time period, I made best buddies with my man Patrick Brooks, and basically after I started homeschooling in grade 2, I didn't hear from him until, let's say, last year.
Holy shit.
Yeah, we just happened to run into each other on social media of some sort. And it was like, dude, holy shit, it's so good hearing from you, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, dude, do you still like Swamp Thing? And I was like, wait, holy shit, I did love Swamp Thing. Like, I had forgotten about it.
What?
I know.
Way to go, Patty B.
I know,
for remembering
man.
you liked Swamp Thing.
It's so sick. So I think that, like, it must have been extremely apparent. I was probably really fucking weird about it or something. So apparently that was also my jam. But yeah, I love myself some action figures, staging battles with them. And of course you get your bathtub fucking water mission time. All kinds of good stuff. Were you an action figure man?
I was, and what was already on my list, and I'll get specific in action figures.
All right.
I liked 2 He-Man action figures the most.
Yeah?
Moss Man, to go back to your Swamp Thing, and Stinkor.
Which one is Stinkor?
Stinkor looked like a skunk.
I didn't have either of those, dude.
Oh, man. Moss Man and Stinkor, they both had a smell to them.
I'm going to Google it right now while you're talking about it.
Do it, absolutely. They both had a smell to them, which is like a part of the character itself. I mean, you know, He-Man...
Okay, just to put it out there, Steve, I'm Googling He-Man Moss Man.
Uh-huh.
The top 3 result is He-Man Moss Man smell.
Yeah. That smell... It stuck with anybody who had those things, the smell of Moss Man and the smell of Stinkor. I think it was probably just some sort of plasticky smell. They used maybe a different rubber. I'm not sure. But it sticks with you. It's not a bad smell.
I'm looking at Stinkor now, too. I do recognize him, but I didn't ever have this one. Did he smell like a skunk, or was it the same weird plasticky thing?
No, it's the same weird plasticky sort of smell. It didn't stink at all. I didn't, my dad, when I was very little, my dad was around, and he apparently had no control over his desire to spend money on his children. So he would buy us a ton of He-Man action figures, and I think I was 1, and my sister wasn't born yet. And so we didn't even play with them. It wasn't until I was about like 7 or 8 that I started playing with them. And I remember Moss Man and Stinkor, they smelled so good. Like, awesome. I really liked the smell. And so, like, that's always stuck with me. But, I mean, if we're just talking about action figures in general, my cousins had almost every Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figure.
Shit, yeah.
And I'm including, like, the ones, you know, from maybe the later 90s, where there was like the sports Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was like a giraffe that played basketball.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah, we would play with those all the time. And because the He-Man figures and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures are about the same size, you know, obviously you put them together.
Battle Royale, man. Hell in a Cell with those things.
My brother, who is 4 years older than me, he had all of the Star Wars figures, but of course we played with them. Like, they weren't in box. I don't understand. I understand that somebody puts value on them, and if you keep them in the box and never take them out, that person will later give you money. But then how do you play with the fucking figures? Like,
I mean, the cardboard would always get all soggy whenever I got in the tub.
Yeah, it's so weird. So what's your next one, Ben?
All right, now, my number dose on mine here, I'm just going to put this out there. Again, this is a broad answer, because I can't get too specific because there are several iterations of this, but I'm just going to say, just generally, video games. Video games,
damn it.
Dude, an integral part of my existence as a kid. Yes, of course.
All right, listen, this will just be a top 3 because you're probably going to name my next one.
Yeah.
But Nintendo Entertainment System I put, but honestly, it could have been anything because my dad, as I said, spent a lot of money on us in the few years he was around. Mm-hmm. He bought a Tandy 2000 computer, And I learned how to program it. It came with a programming book. I learned how to program it. It could sing like songs and stuff.
Oh, that's so sick.
But my grandmother worked at Magnavox in Jefferson City, which later became a different factory. But at the time, they were making Magnavox Odyssey 2s.
Yep.
So we had a Magnavox Odyssey 2 with like all the games.
Wow.
And we would play that thing like crazy. We had a Nintendo and a Super Nintendo, but the Magnavox was like, the Odyssey was so fucking fun.
That was the jam of jams, was the fucking Odyssey.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo and Super Nintendo are obviously way better. Now, if I were to go back and play one of those three systems, it would be the Super Nintendo. But we just had so much fun because it was a thing that, like, every game was 2-player.
Yeah.
Like, every game. Whereas in Nintendo, like, that wasn't the case.
No.
So we would play Odyssey a lot. What games systems were you playing with?
So mine started with the NES. The NES was my first system that I ever had as a kid. And then, I mean, I played the piss out of that thing, dude. And then that went on to Super Nintendo. And then that went on to PlayStation. And I'd say right around PlayStation 2 was when I would consider myself kind of an adult. But most of my childhood was racked by Nintendo and Super Nintendo, and then teenage years were PlayStation. I was absolutely obsessed, and a lot of my friends have made numerous comparisons to my Rain Man-like level of concentration and focus and mastery of these games, because I'm telling you, man, like, it was part of my daily routine to play, like, let's say Ninja Gaiden 2, like one of the hardest fucking games ever made, right?
It was a tough one.
I could beat that game every day. Like, it was just like every day I'd turn on Ninja Gaiden 2 and beat it. And now it's like, I'm sure I couldn't even get through the first level. It's fucking impossible. But I spent so much time. And the thing is, man, is like back then, and I'm sure you know this too, but like back in the, 80s and 90s, all of our friends were out playing soccer and baseball and football and stuff like this. And video games were still like nerd stuff. It was the kind of thing where it's like, whenever I would meet somebody new and they would ask me, hey, what do you like to do for fun? And I'd be like, video games. It was always kind of this just like, don't think worse of me because I like video games. Because it really was like a nerd fucking shit thing back then. It really, really was.
Yeah. I guess that never hit me because my cousins and my brother and my sister and I, we all played sports, but we also, because my grandmother had worked at Magnavox, we had been introduced to video games from day one.
Yeah.
So, like, video games to me always seemed normal, and it wasn't until I think middle school that I realized, like, oh, everybody doesn't play video games.
Yeah, exactly.
But it never affected me. It never made me be like, I don't want to talk about video games or sports. It was always just like, well, why don't you like these things?
You
what
should
is
try
wrong
this.
with you people? Yes.
I'm telling you, though, man, it's one of those things that, like, I've recently realized, and of course, I'm not a parent, I don't have kids or anything like that, but I have recently realized that if you're a parent and you're looking at your kids' interests and stuff, there is literally no way to know if they are wasting their time or not. There is no way to know.
No, there is no way. Your brain can't comprehend what their future will be.
Dude, and I'm telling you, I just recently had this, like, devastating realization recently where, like, whenever I was a kid, I didn't start playing guitar and stuff until I was, like, 16 or 17. But when I was a kid, video games were all that I fucking cared about was video games. I wanted to go into programming, and then I also saw these guys, entering these Street Fighter tournaments and, like, making money and stuff. And I was like, oh, man, I'd love to do that. But, it's the kind of thing where it's like, and I can't blame them, but it's like my parents at the time were just like, okay, this is fun, but it's like, this is just kind of a waste of time. It's like, this is a game. Like, you're not really doing anything. It's a game. And I had this ridiculous realization recently where it's like, man, I realized actually if I would have stayed playing video games and probably got into, like, doing the tournament thing, or even, of course I do YouTube guitar stuff now, but it's like, dude, if I was doing YouTube video game stuff, starting like 6 years ago, I would be like a fucking Forbes top 40 motherfucker. Like,
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's you can't predict the future your child's gonna be in, and it makes no sense to even pretend that you can.
No, man. Well, because to my parents, like becoming like a hot shit guitar player, that's a viable future. Because my parents grew up in the era of Van Halen and Led Zeppelin and Steve Vai. Yeah, exactly. It's like they grew up in that era where it's like, wow, you get good at music, you become a rock star, and you're a fucking millionaire. That's good. Mm-hmm. You should encourage that and develop that. Which, don't be wrong, I don't regret a single thing I've ever done. But it just kind of hit me recently where I was like, man, if I would have stayed playing fucking video games, I would probably be over there with you in the Hollywood Hills right now, living right below. I think I would probably live right below the H. Seems like that would provide a lot of good shade.
Oh yeah, that's a good place to live.
Maybe the O. I don't know.
I live in the D, so
you're rolling in the D.
I'm rolling in the D.
Nuts. So yeah, basically, if you think that your fucking kid is wasting their time with a damn fidget spinner or whatever, you really don't fucking know. You can't.
You have no idea. God damn it, fidget spinners may be the thing. Like that might, like football. Football, honestly, is if you let your kid play football, you're doing something wrong. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that, because there's so many studies now that show that that those constant hits to the head in the time of development create a child who's gonna have some behavioral issues.
Well, hey, not according to Hair President. I don't know if you caught that, but he was just talking recently about how he was watching a game of football and the referee gave a penalty for guys that tackled too hard. He said they were doing this beautiful tackle, and the referee gives them a penalty for it. This is the kind of stuff that's ruining this great game for me. It's like, you're a fucking piece of garbage, dude. You're a piece of shit. Oh, it makes me so mad.
I would fist fight Donald Trump. I want everyone to understand that. Donald Trump, listen, let's fist fight. Just you, me, and fists, please.
Hell yeah, dude. You would take him on even after you beat Delilah in your all's one-on-one match.
Okay, how about this? I'll do an Iron Man match with Donald Trump after my hair versus hair match with Delilah. You know why? Because that motherfucker, I guarantee, he's never been punched. He's never been punched, and that's a problem. That's a problem in this world, that if you are given everything and nobody ever gives you just a fucking punch in the mouth, just a stupid punch, just one that makes no sense, one where you're like, I was just standing here being stupid and I got punched in the face
because I was dumb.
Yeah, and then you don't become president for good. That's a good thing.
That's a good thing, exactly. And not that violence solves, major problems, but it's like sometimes you need to know when you're being a piece of shit, Donald.
All
right, so let me ask you this: in your Iron Man match, since the odds are stacked against you on a 2-1, you get to choose a guest referee. Who's your guest referee gonna be?
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson's gonna be the guest ref?
Yeah.
Tight.
Yeah. Well, I want to build up a relationship between Tyson and Trump where Trump like pays him off, for months leading up, and then like right at the end, Tyson screws Trump.
Like a Ted DiBiase Virgil scenario.
Yeah. Except I don't want poor Tyson to end up like Virgil.
Yeah, like iron his clothes and stuff.
No,
God, just that was weird.
Look up stories about Virgil and cry.
Yeah, because that happened not long ago.
Yeah.
God, that was weird. That was really weird. But yeah, basically, video games, gigantic part of my life. I have so many fond memories of like all of my favorite Christmases as a child revolve around me opening up a Super Nintendo and getting Mario Kart or Mario Paint or Super Mario Brothers or Metal Gear Solid or Gran Turismo. Like, I have so many wonderful memories, and I know, again, it's like I know to my family and stuff like that, it just seemed like I was wasting my time playing video games or whatever, but those are some of my favorite memories, period, in life ever. And I really honestly do think that, like, especially playing those old school 8-bit games, were honing my memorizational skills to a Hattori Hanzo katana-like razor point. which would later benefit me in playing guitar and playing music and stuff, where memorization is so key, because those old 8-bit games, memorization is the only skill.
Yeah, hand-eye coordination and memorization. It's. I mean, I don't think that we've lost anything by having more complex games with deeper backstories and stuff, but I think it says a lot that there are still people creating low-res games, like 8-bit games, right? that are real fun to play. Yeah, it's still fun. You don't lose anything by losing the great graphics.
Totally. What's the next one you got on your list of favorite childhood?
All right, man. I'm going to go broad here. I have a specific one, but I'm going to go broad because I think this might be something you'll agree with.
Okay.
Sticks and rocks.
Sticks and rocks. Things found in nature.
Yeah, $10,000 pyramid.
You're talking about going out and just playing a good old kick the rock down the road, or breaking off a branch and having a sword and that kind of thing, right?
Sure, but even more than that, my cousins and my uncle was a contractor, and my cousins and I would be around construction sites pretty regularly, and we were taught to use tools pretty early. Mm-hmm. And so we would go out into the woods and build some pretty elaborate forts. We'd take some nails and a hammer. We would just, pull down vines and use them as rope and stuff, and we would build forts.
Were you using your good guy tool set?
You know what? We were using real guy tool sets. That's right. But I do think that my cousins did have a toy tool set that we played with when we were real little. But as we grew, it was real hammers and nails, and building forts was just that's so much fun. I mean, I don't know if in today's culture you can build forts as much. I imagine, you might be building a fort and somebody would be like, "Oh, you're gonna have to get a permit for that," or something. I know lemonade stands get shut down for not having permits. So
right, exactly. Well, the problem with building forts now is they have to be gluten-free.
Oh, right. Oh, and that's so hard to make a fort without gluten?
Yeah, exactly.
How's it gonna hold up?
What's gonna happen? Come on.
So Ben, what's your last one?
All right, so my number one. Well, I'm not gonna say it's number one. These aren't really in a sequential order for me in terms of worst to best or whatever. But my last one that I have on my list is a good old trampoline.
Oh man, yes.
So we were poor as fuck when I was a kid. But one of the nicer things that we managed to afford for ourselves was a trampoline after we moved into our second house. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, that is where I got all of my physical exercise that I'll ever get in my entire life, I'm pretty sure. It's right there on that trampoline. We had so much fun. My brother and I would go out on it, and I'll tell you, it's amazing for the amount of horsing around that we did on that shit. Neither of us ever got hurt. Like, I always heard heard stories of people flying off and breaking their arms or breaking their wrists or whatever. But, dude, I mean, we would do full-on WWF shit on that thing, and none of us ever got hurt or anything. Actually, I think probably the worst thing is the amount of just, sunburns we got from going out there and jumping in the middle of the day and getting... I think that's probably why I had to have a fucking skin cancer spot removed from my face last year. Is probably from I know, right? It fucking sucks, but it's I think that's probably where all of my sun exposure as a kid is just on a trampoline. Had so much fun on that thing, dude. And my buddy Josh, old JR, he had do you remember the WWF Wrestling Buddies?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so they were, for those of you guys who don't know, they were kind of just stuffed, almost like pillow-like dolls of your favorite WWF superstars. So he had Macho Man, and he had Ultimate Warrior, and he had Hulk, and I think he had $1 Million Man, if I'm not mistaken. And dude, we would just take those things out there and just razzle the fuck out of them, and also razzle the hell out of each other too. The most fun. And you could like stick a hose under there and have you some just great redneck summer fucking fun. It was a blast, dude.
My cousins had a trampoline, and we also would wrestle on it all the time.
That's what they're there for.
We also would play Ninja Turtles on it, which is where we would do flips and kick each other.
Sure.
But also one of our favorite things to do was my Aunt Vicky would come out with the garden hose, and she'd spray us down while we were jumping.
There you go. Exactly, dude. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's great.
It adds 2,000% danger to jumping on a trampoline. But
yes.
It was so fun. Now, I did get an injury from a trampoline. I have a dent in my leg from jumping and hitting the bar. I have a dent on my right leg. It's been there since I was 8, maybe.
Awesome.
It grew with me. It's still there. My cousin Casey, one time, he didn't get injured by this, but he did this thing. We were jumping on the wet trampoline, and he hit sort of on the edge, and instead of his body bouncing back up, his legs just went out from underneath him, and he fell like almost like, remember in Duck Hunt, the dog like jumps over the bush?
Oh yeah, totally.
It looked exactly like that, but he was landing off of the trampoline.
Damn.
That was the worst that ever happened, though. He didn't even get hurt. So, I understand why trampolines aren't still around as much for kids. They are death traps. But
I know, but we never had a problem, and of course ours didn't have like the safety net shit around.
Yeah,
it.
No, obviously not.
It originally had like the pads that went around the springs, but of course those dry rot and fall off and stuff. So
yeah,
eventually we just had the open springs. But again, no problems ever. I'm actually very shocked. We did a lot of stupid shit on that thing.
Oh yeah, we were constantly doing flips and kicking each other and
Stone
wrestling.
Cold stunners.
Oh man, you gotta stun somebody.
I mean, dude, like if you got me on one of those things now, and it was me and Josh, and he's like, "Hey, let me try to do like every suplex that Saturn ever did on you," I'd be like, "Yeah, no." But back then, it's like, "All right, go for it."
We used to do that on beds a lot. Like
Sure.
we would practice suplexes onto beds because it probably doesn't hurt. But then every once in a while, that suplex that goes awry and sends you flying off the side of the bed.
Or hits a bedpost or like the side of the bed or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Every now and then you get those.
Being a kid is a risk. It just
Huge
is.
risk.
It's
I'm
a
shocked.
huge risk.
Dude, I'm serious. Like, and I think that every generation says this, but it's like, I'm so shocked that we made it out alive. I mean, I know that our parents say that shit because, my mom has stories of, like the fucking DDT truck driving through the neighborhood spraying and fogging for mosquitoes, and they'd run out behind it and shit. And I'm like, God damn, how are you still alive? But there's so much dumb stuff that we did in the 80s that I'm like, I'm just shocked that we fucking lived through it, man. Or didn't at least get some pretty heinous injuries. So maybe life isn't as dangerous as we think it is, really.
You know what happened, though?
Huh.
Joan Baez told those farmers to put away their DDT, and they did.
It's true.
And then they paved paradise and put up a parking lot.
Oh,
and
man.
Like, what?
And then I think the fucking Counting Crows covered it, and it was like, please, no. Why should you have dreadlocks? Why?
Adam Duritz' hair. Yeah.
His fucking head looks like a pineapple. It's so
Isn't
dumb.
that a wig?
I
think I heard
that
that's
it
a wig.
is. That makes me even madder.
Yeah, you know what? If they were for real dreadlocks, I would at least be like, well, at least he was dedicated to growing those dreadlocks. Instead, it's a wig?
At least the hair is fucking free. It's like you paid to look like an asshole. God damn.
Mr. Jones and me.
We had some good times on that old trampoline, though, man. We had ourselves some damn good times. I would actually still like to have one. I feel like that's a way that you could probably get me to exercise every now and then.
We did. When I was in college, my roommates and I had a trampoline in the back. And when you're like grown adult bodies, it's still fun. But you don't want to have too many people on that trampoline.
Well, Steve, what's your last entry that you have on your list of your favorite childhood toys?
Oh, I said Sticks and Rocks, right?
I thought that was 2.
No, that was number 3.
That was 3?
Yeah, I can throw another one out there. I had a green stuffed rabbit that I was really a fan of. Yeah, after I got my tonsils and adenoids removed, I woke up in the recovery room and couldn't scream. That sounds like a horror movie. I couldn't scream, but I was scared, and I was like, and
he started a black metal band.
Yeah, I started a black metal band, but then my mom came running in. They saw that I had woken up. She came running in with my green stuffed rabbit, and everything was okay.
Nice. I had myself a blue bear. That was probably a similar situation. I'm also going to put it out there as honorable mention, and I didn't choose it because I figured it would be on your list, Steve, but I'm going to put out there a Legos.
Oh, man.
Because I spent so much time in my life playing it. I didn't put it on there because I figured that you would pick that somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Legos, wooden blocks, Lincoln Logs. We played with that stuff all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is about Lincoln Logs and wood blocks and Legos is that you can combine them.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I guess it wasn't until I played Minecraft that I remembered just how much I loved doing that as a kid, just building stuff.
Totally.
Out of Legos and things like that.
And we did constructs too, which I mentioned on another episode.
Constructs are fun, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. We'd make cars and have like demolition derbies and fuck them up and stuff. Mm-hmm. I spent so much time building, anything out of Legos. I feel like that's just a quality, great toy for a kid to expand their creative mind. Now, Steve, the subject of good old Chucky here is, of course, a possessed, very creepy doll. Did you ever have a Chucky doll when you were a kid?
No, my cousin had a My Buddy doll.
My Buddy, which is what this was kind of loosely based on, and also completely sank the sales of. It destroyed the sales of the My Buddy doll.
Well, good, honestly, because that doll was creepy.
Yeah.
My sister had a doll. We had a Teddy Ruxpin, which moved its mouth and eyes and stuff, and, was a bit creepy. My sister had a Cricket doll, which was like a Teddy Ruxpin / My Buddy, but it was, a girl.
Okay.
I always was creeped out by those things.
Yeah.
Like, even before seeing Child's Play, I was so creeped out. Cabbage Patch dolls never really creep me out as much because they don't actually look human.
No.
And I collected Garbage Pail Kids as a child.
Oh shit, the infamous.
Yeah, so I thought Cabbage Patch dolls were just the lame version of Garbage Pail Kids. So I was
they are
whatever. Really.
Even
if they were to come to life, I would just shoot a snot rocket at them or something cool like that. I do remember because I lived in Buford, Georgia when I was a real little kid.
Oh.
Yeah, and we went to there's like a place that Xavier Roberts set up that's like where the Cabbage Patch Kids are born. I can't remember what it's called, but it was in Cleveland, Georgia, like on the way to Chattanooga and stuff. And we went there once, I remember when I was little. And I think at the end, my mom was like, "Do you want one?" And I was like, "No."
Nope.
Not interested in a Cabbage Patch Kid, sorry.
I always thought it was really weird that like even as like a 5 and 6 year old kid, I'd see like other like 5 and 6 year old like girls and stuff with like baby dolls, and I'm like, why in the fuck would you want to pretend that you have a baby? Like, you're not gonna have a baby for another 10 or 12 or 20 years. Like, why the fuck would you just got done being a baby?
That is some malicious shit that we forget, that like through the 80s and 90s there was this big push on boys having soldiers and girls having baby dolls. Like, boys need to go off to war to fight and girls need to take care of babies.
You'd think that they were really preparing for some kind of like massive war effort that was going to like decimate the population or something. Like, there was some shit going on.
I think it wouldn't be too insane to imagine that rich people are always kind of thinking of that, but this movie though in particular, it just worked on a fear I think a lot of us already had. Like, you could say that the My Buddy sales were hurt by Chucky, but in fact, they're probably hurt by the fact that parents bought them for their kids, and their kids were like, and what am I supposed to do with this?
Right, yeah.
And the only thing we would do with it is fight it. Like, that's what we did as kids. We would wrestle with it. Like,
oh, yeah. No, definitely so. Well, I remember, like I said, I didn't watch this when I was a kid. I remember seeing it, you know, in the video stores and stuff like that at the Video West. I remember seeing the box. I think it looked really scary. But my first exposure in real life to Chucky was when I was in kindergarten. There was this kid who was totally the fucking class bully.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, he was, dude, he was everything you imagined of an 80s kid class bully. He had fucking red hair.
Oh, God. Braces? Did he have braces?
He was only 6, so no, not
okay.
yet, but I'm sure that he did eventually. But he was pale, had freckles, he was a ginger, he had a mullet.
Uh-huh.
And he even had a great malicious fucking bully kid name. And I'm going to go ahead and just totally name drop it because I'm sure there's a million kids named this, so there's no risk of breaking somebody's anonymity here. But perfect fucking bully kid name. His name was Shane White.
Oh, man.
Shane. Oh, man. This kid was such a fucking shithead. He was terrible. And he had, I remember one time at Show and Tell, he brought his Chucky doll, which he thought was just the sickest thing ever. And I remember being really freaked out and being like, that's that scary doll I've seen at the Video West.
Ah. No!
I did not like it. I did not like looking at it and stuff. So when I think Chucky, I actually think of Shane White.
Yeah, that's a pretty good, that's a good association, because I would say Chucky is a bully.
Yeah.
Like, the way he treats that kid, etc. He seems like a bully.
Not very nice. Not very nice. Now, this, I think part of the reason that this movie is so effective in a lot of ways is I think that it plays upon the fear of kids, like you said, as far as like kids being creeped out by dolls and fearing that a doll would come to life and move or something like that. But I think it also plays upon the fear that I know that at least my parents anyway were always really scared of and worried about the toys and stuff that I would bring into the house, whether it be like, let's say Doom for PlayStation or you know, like there was all this hype around Dungeons and Dragons when we were a kid and stuff like that. All these toys that you brought into the house could turn out to be some sort of evil influence. So I think this movie worked on a lot of different levels.
Okay. Yeah, because the Dungeons and Dragons hype was in the 80s, like the whole, like, you play this game, you're going to lose your soul, Tom Hanks, etc.
And Garbage Pail Kids and stuff like that,
Garbage
too.
Pail
That was
Kids,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, that was like a really big no-no around the house. So I know that our parents feared our toys for different reasons than we feared toys and stuff like that, too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like, I mean, I know that this movie has been said to be based off of Garbage Pail Kids and My Buddies.
Sure.
But also the writing of it, etc., is based off of actual, like, haunted dolls that have existed for a long time. I mean, I couldn't give you an exact date where people thought dolls were haunted, but I can say, for instance, Annabelle, which has had 2 movies, which was really a Raggedy Ann doll, but it didn't look as creepy as it does in the movies.
Yo, we had a Raggedy Ann doll when we were kids. I don't know where it came from. It was creepy as fuck. Yeah, I did not like that thing.
They are creepy. It's also based off of a doll called Robert, which is going to be covered in an upcoming Amazon series called Lore, which is based off a podcast.
No shit.
Yeah,
they're turning that into a show.
Yeah. Huh. So we're next, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Fucking Dead
and Lovely, the show.
Ouch My Dino Head, episode 1.
Yeah, Ouch My Dino Head, episode 1. Episode 2, The Creeper at the DMV.
Episode 3 is gonna be You Assume My Gender at the end of House of the Devil.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, yeah, like possessed dolls have been a thing for a long, long time.
Sure.
And of
even
course,
Pinocchio, Pinocchio goes back to that too.
Yeah, Pinocchio he's a possessed doll, even though that's supposed to be a positive message. I remember Pinocchio scaring me as a child.
Oh God, dude, when he turns into a donkey, it's very scary.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It wasn't just the doll coming to life, but the donkey scene.
Ugh.
And in the belly of the whale, like, I actually am afraid of whales.
Yeah, for real, man. I cannot argue with you. There is something about extremely huge living creatures that freaks me the fuck out. Like, dude, anytime you see those pictures of like somebody in the ocean, floating alongside like a fucking sperm whale, and they're like, fuck no, like. I would be running across the water. Like, I would be just soaked in adrenaline if I was in that situation. Huge animals of any type. Like, I'm talking gigantic. I'm not talking about like a big dog. I'm talking about fucking colossal animals. Freak me the fuck out.
Yeah, and you're in the water. Like, you're not going to be next to a whale and afraid of it on land.
No.
Obviously. You're in the water, and it's going to swim faster than you. Because the second it moves, it's moved 10 times as far as you're going to move. Because it's gigantic.
Yeah.
Also, sperm whales will eat you. People are always like, oh, you don't have to be afraid of whales. Every time I tell people, you don't have to be afraid of whales. Oh, really? First off, orcas will eat you. Yeah. Sperm whales will eat you. There are whales out there that will fucking eat you.
If nothing else by accident.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, if nothing else by accident. Yes, you're not going to fucking... a baleen whale's not gonna eat you. Fine. Whatever. But there are whales that will eat you.
Oh, yeah.
So, why are we talking about whales? Oh! What I was gonna say is, what creepy dolls and voodoo intersect. And that's what happens in this movie.
Yeah, and I like that they brought that into this, too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you don't bring the voodoo doll in... It seems like you're missing on a real good, like, intersectional, already horrific area. People are already scared of voodoo and already scared of dolls. Boom, voodoo dolls.
Now, that brings you to an interesting point here, Stephen, that I don't know if you know about this, but the original plot of the movie did not involve any kind of voodoo, which I do like.
Really?
Yeah, I do like the addition of that into the story because that gives you a clever workaround to how... this could physically work, But the original plot for the movie did not involve that. So in the original kind of screenplay for the flick, I want to say it might have been set like slightly into the future or something like this, and they were making these dolls for kids that they had like a flesh-like exterior and like blood and stuff inside of them. And basically, if you're roughhousing with your doll and it got an injury, you'd have to go buy some good guy Band-Aids and, like, patch them up, right?
Okay.
So it was meant to be, like, a very realistic doll for kids. And basically, our main kid in this, which, again, I like the voodoo workaround, but this is so fucked up and weird that I kind of think it would have been sick if they would have gone with this, or if they just make another movie that's sort of based on this. But basically, in the movie... the kid that has the main doll here is supposed to basically form like a blood pact with his doll and like cut his hand and like mix his blood with the doll's blood. Yeah. And basically the doll, whenever the kid is like asleep specifically, comes to life and like exacts revenge on the people that the kid doesn't like. So like the bully, the school teacher, like his mom who's never there because she's working all the time. Like the doll goes around and kills like enemies of the kid because he has this blood bond with him, which I think is fucked up as hell.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't say that's a bad idea.
I know. I think it's pretty cool.
That seems like a cool movie.
I know. And it kind of, there's sort of a theme of that, I think a little bit, that you could see as subtext in this movie of parents who are never home and never spend time with their kids and stuff because they're working all the time, trying to basically buy their children love or friends or affection through buying them toys. I think that's kind of what they extracted from this because in the original, you know, again, this doll was gonna like kill his mom because his mom was never around and stuff like that. It's like, let's temper that down maybe a little bit and just kind of get out of it that you can't buy your kid's affection. Let's just go with that instead.
I think that the Child's Play we currently have is a great introduction into the series. I think that movie you just described, though, would stand up even better today. Like, it would be a movie where it's just like, oh, okay, well, that's like, even though the consumer culture is different and, you know, we're much more based around electronics and things that aren't tangible now. Kids don't want as many tangible products, so it doesn't fit as well today. But yeah, that seems more like a kid getting revenge on everyone who neglects them type of thing. And children are constantly being neglected, so that seems like a great, maybe, new Child's Play.
Yeah, I know.
The one is coming out this week, the week that we released this. Cult of Chucky, right? Is that what it is?
That's correct. Mm-hmm. It's a straight-to-video or straight-to-stream kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I think so. They've all been done by the same writer, as far as I understand. But this particular movie is directed by Tom Holland. Again, not Spider-Man Tom Holland, but Fright Night director Tom Holland.
Right, yeah. So he did the new one. I didn't know that.
Oh, I don't know if he did the new one.
Okay, gotcha.
The writer, Mancini, I can't remember his first name. Anyway, he's been with the series throughout. So there's something interesting about the Child's Play sequels, and we're obviously not talking about the sequels right now, but they don't develop as much as other horror movies do. Like, for me, it seems like each sequel is it's just another Child's Play, basically. Like, they add later the Bride of Chucky, etc., but, like, it's always just a foul-mouthed doll. Like, that's the central idea of Child's Play. Is there's a foul-mouthed doll with the spirit of a serial killer inside of it.
And he kills you.
Lot of mercy.
So instead of the original plot that we had there with the Blood Oath kid and stuff like that, what we end up with that they decided on for this movie is that the spirit of a serial killer, played by none other than Grima Wormtongue himself, Brad Dourif.
Brad Dourif's so good.
Oh, man. Dude, and P.S., I didn't realize that he was Grima Wormtongue until this time. Like, a couple days ago, I didn't realize that was fucking Grima, which was a really huge mindfuck for me. He basically is on a job gone bad, and he gets shot by a cop, and he says this voodoo spell and transfers his consciousness into a good guy doll named Chucky, which then ends up in the hands of this kid who is a kid who has a single parent. His mom works all the time and stuff, and he loves himself some good guys, and then all chaos ensues. Now, this kid, when I say he likes some good guys, I'm going to tell you what, they really push the commercialization and the marketing of products towards kids extremely hard in this movie. Throughout this movie, we see that, like, he's wearing, like, a good guy's pajama set. He is eating good guy's cereal. His mom makes him a good guy's cake mix. It's like, there's fucking good guys everything possible throughout this here that's marketed towards kids.
It definitely seems to be related to Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that same sort of idea of the commercialization.
Yeah.
And the way that it's spreading is evil.
Right.
Sure, that's absolutely correct. Unfortunately, we never got to see anything cool from all that evil commercialization. It was basically just evilness. So, luckily, we got some horror movies out of it, at least.
That's true. But in real life, we just got more old white guys making money.
Yeah, we just got more rich old white men.
Same as always.
Same as it ever was. Now, this movie is full of jump scares, which I normally don't care for. But I think this movie's tension actually relies on us up to a point not knowing that the doll might be like actually moving.
Yeah, it's actually really far into the movie. I think it's at least 45 minutes. It might even be an hour into the movie before we actually see a moving full-on Chucky on screen.
Yeah, so the tension of the jump scares actually works well. It's not like, I hate, say for instance, in a Friday the 13th movie where you get a jump scare, because it's like, well, I know what's out there. Jason's out there.
Yeah.
Like, in the beginning, though, in the beginning of a Child's Play movie, you don't know. You're not sure. It's not until a certain point that we actually see the doll moving independent of what a doll might do.
Yeah.
Because the doll's supposed to talk and move. We finally see it move in a way that we're like, oh, okay, now that doll's possessed.
And dude, when it does, like that scene where the mom like picks up the box and the batteries fall out and the camera zooms in on the it's almost like it reminds me of a shot from The Shining for some reason. I don't know why. It's this Kubricky like zoom in on the batteries or something. I don't know why it reminds me of that, but she picks up the doll and she starts shaking it and she's like, say something. Then she lights the fireplace. And then, dude, Chucky just comes at her hot as fuck.
Yeah, so apparently he's been, this entire time, actually talking to the kid, and, like, there is something to fear. There's something very strong to fear. Now, how strong is this doll? This is a question I have throughout.
Yeah, that's something I'm not exactly certain about. Yeah, is he like as strong as full-grown Brad Dourif, or is he as strong as like a little 4-year-old, which he's proportional to? I'm not exactly certain about that, because he definitely does things that make it seem like he's very strong at times. Like him like choking out that dude at the end of the movie and stuff. It's like if that was a 4-year-old, you just gently swat that arm off of you, it's no big deal.
Yeah, I feel like maybe the shock of a doll coming to life is what's preventing them from actually just, like, this seems like it would be a scene, like if Scary Movie had been made in 1990 instead of later, it would have had a scene where they just beat the shit out of a doll that tried to kill them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's a doll. Like, I mean, I get this fear of the doll coming to life, but the second you're in a physical altercation with a doll, motherfucker, let me fight a doll. Delilah, hold on. I'm going to fight a doll at Royal Rumble just for fun. Because, what? There's no way, even if the doll has proportionate strength, like if it's somehow the size of that doll giving that doll muscles. Say it's a little person, which it is in some scenes. The doll is played by a little person.
Yeah.
Say it's a little person, but they're only that tall.
Right.
I could, okay, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I don't know for sure I could take every little person that height.
Right.
But I think I have the advantage of being bigger than them, and you could just lay on top of them, at the least.
Are you saying Peter Dinklage should bring it?
Oh, see, Peter Dinklage, he's taller than this doll, and
it's true.
And I would not want to fight Peter Dinklage.
Fuck no. I'd be like, man, you're awesome. I don't want to hurt you, dog.
I
don't
want to deal with this. Don't want to deal with this. You might win. I might win. I don't know, but you're fucking Peter Dinklage. You win. But I'm just saying, like, the doll is like 2.5, 3 feet tall.
Sure. Yeah.
So even if it does have, and I'm willing to believe it because it's voodoo. If it does have the proportionate strength of Brad Dourif, okay, I get it. But Brad Dourif's not a big dude.
No.
And it doesn't matter how strong it is. Like, put it in a full Nelson and you won. Like,
I should think.
Yeah, because it could be as strong as it wants at that point. You have the advantage. Like, I just feel throughout this movie that the thing that the doll has that's scary is the element of surprise.
Yeah.
It's a doll. The thing it doesn't have is that it could beat you in a physical altercation.
Yeah, right.
And that's what we see a lot near the end, is a lot of physical altercations, and it's like, okay, this is less scary.
Well, I could even give it the benefit of the doubt that, if we're going as far as to say the soul of a serial killer can possess a doll by means of voodoo.
Yeah, maybe it's got crazy strength.
Yeah, maybe it's got Papa Shango strength or something.
Okay.
Maybe you could make a fucking Ultimate Warrior barf if he came up on him.
Oh, shit.
You remember that?
Yeah.
What a weird beat.
So we have to accept then that it has magical strength.
I'll go with that. Like, that's the closest I can come to explaining it.
The problem is that the mom, who is a basic white lady,
yeah,
she holds him off a number of times. Like, she's not strong as far as we understand. She's not big.
Yeah.
She's not muscular. She holds him off a few times. So, like,
CrossFit hadn't even been invented by then.
Oh, gosh. Hot yoga? She's not doing that.
No. Huh? I don't even know if they had a pumpkin spice latte back then.
Well, if they didn't have pumpkin spice lattes, then this makes no sense.
No, not at all.
So she's fighting it off a number of times. So I feel like if you want to make Chucky scary, you keep him in the shadows, which is what they do for the first hour of the movie.
Right.
Basically keep him in the shadows, keep him out of physical altercations. But then the last 40 minutes of the movie is all physical altercations, and it's like, okay, well, this is less scary and more comical.
That part where he comes to life in her arms the first time and just comes at her just as cold and salty as the Arctic Sea, man. He's like, you fucking slut, you bitch.
He does. He really
man.
does. And Brad Dourif is so good. Like,
I know. His voice work is amazing, dude. And
his voice... He plays the voice of Chucky in every movie, I think. So,
yeah,
like, he's stuck with it. And hatred and just venom and anger. He's so good at that.
Oh, I know. And, dude, even, like, towards the end, like, the scenes where he's been set on fire in the fireplace and he's, like, screaming bloody murder and shit, it is so believable. Like, it sounds like they fucking set him on fire in the vocal booth. I'm just like, hey, go ahead and hit record now. It's intense.
You get the sense of how good he is, like, early on, where he's being chased.
Yeah.
And he's running up on that van and he's like, don't leave me. And then he's like, God, no. Like, he's, like, legitimately scared. Like,
well,
I mean, obviously...
That's him doing the voice of Sam Kinison at that point in the movie, though.
He does look like Sam Kinison at that point. He's wearing that trench coat and everything.
Yeah.
Like, as a kid, I told you this in a text, I did think that Sam Kinison was.
I'm still not sure he's not.
I thought that was Sam Kinison. But yeah, like, he's so good in this.
I know.
And so, like, I think that a lot of what carries this is the simple fear of toys and the fact that Brad Dourif is such a great voice actor.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the acting of the mom, Karen, is fine. The little kid leaves something to be desired. The cop?
Prince Humperdink.
Prince Humperdink, I don't know about him.
I'm not exactly sure.
He certainly didn't think at all about maybe learning how to use a gun. There are... I just want to point these out. He's so bad with a gun. In particular, the scene where he's in a car upside down in an urban area, and he's just shooting blindly.
He does kind of pop off a bunch of shots, just willy-nilly, doesn't he?
Okay, at one point, he holds the phone that he's using to call the police department, holds the phone with the hand he has his gun in, so his gun is pointing at his head. What? At another point, he hands Karen a gun, which, when he hands it, he's pointing at her child.
I didn't notice that, dude.
And then later, when Chucky is on his partner's shoulder, he's legitimately considering shooting at Chucky.
Yeah,
Instead of standing up and grabbing the goddamn doll. It's a doll.
Just a doll.
It's a doll. Even if it has proportionate human strength, it weighs maybe 10 pounds.
Yeah. Toss that thing around. Come on. God, that's funny. I hadn't noticed that. He's bad at being a cop.
He's not good at being a cop. The acting he does is fine, but like it's not great. Like I think he's supposed to be this like attractive dude, etc. And he is. He's Prince Humperdink. He just doesn't portray cop well to me.
Now the guy in the movie that I really like though is his cop cohort, who I call indie hipster band cop, because he totally has like a fucking hipster mustache and hipster hair and like that big blazer and stuff. It's like, I want to know all that I wanted to know the whole movie. I want to know if his band sounds more like The Killers or more like Vampire Weekend.
He looked like a Vampire Weekend guy to me.
See, I think so too. I think he thinks that he's being really esoteric, but he's actually not.
He doesn't care about Oxford commas, I'll tell you that.
No, not at all, man. So I'm pretty sure that he plays in some kind of sick band that might have like let's say like an 11:30 a.m. spot at Bonnaroo, maybe.
Uh-huh.
You should be sure to come see us under the fucking Windex tent at Bonnaroo.
The Windex tent. After that, they're showing My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
My Big Fat Greek Abortion. Now, one of the things about this movie that I do find the creepiest is its absolute lack of CGI, which, of course, being made in 1988, it has to. There's so many animatronics and puppets, and also, too, like a lot of instances, like you said, of a little person in a Chucky costume on an oversized set. Like when he comes down through the fireplace, or when he's stalking through the building trying to get to little kid in the children's mental hospital, this Dickensian nightmare children's prison, basically.
Right.
But whenever you see like the little dude in the costume, it's totally... the only term is uncanny valley. Everything lands firmly in that uncanny valley where you're like, it looks close enough to being real that my brain hates it. Absolutely hates it.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It really does hit that just... because the face doesn't look right.
No.
So if the proportions are all right, which they are with the little person, the proportions are all right, and the face looks... like a doll, it's like, what the fuck? Like your brain's like, no, don't do that. I don't want to see that.
I love how we see him get more and more banged up throughout the movie and stuff too, because at first he
gets
just looks
burns
like
and stuff.
Yeah, dude, he gets burnt with like a cigarette lighter in a car, and then of course later on in the movie he gets full on burnt, and I really enjoy that, because basically like towards the end of the movie, after he gets thrown in the fireplace and he's walking around with his like, one exposed eye and all of his skin is burnt off and shit, and he's still going after him. You can really see through, the spots in his skin and his clothes and stuff where the robot Chucky is inside of there, and you see like metal. It looks like fucking, a Terminator inside of that thing walking around.
Yeah, that is exactly what I thought of at the end when he's all burnt and he's like, parts are getting blown off and he's like, pulling himself with his arm. He's Terminator. This is Terminator right here. And this is before T2, so it's like, I don't know, like, it fits in the T2 realm, but it's not T2.
And it's cool, too, because, for one, it looks fucking badass. It looks really cool, but also it's neat, too, that some special effects guy basically got to show you the trick and make it part of the movie. Like, imagine a magician showing you where the rabbit in the hat goes, and that's part of the trick. Like, in this movie, you actually got to see the animatronics and stuff at work as part of the story. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think that's really cool. They managed to squeeze that in. Anybody who's a fan of special effects has to really, have their ears perk up whenever you see that part, because that is just really, really neat to see it on screen happening. They're not trying to make it look like a doll or make it look like whatever. It's like you're getting to see this is metal pipes and wires and stuff. That's why it's working.
Really cool.
Yeah, it works. It's very, very cool. I think it's super creepy too.
So the element of this that makes the least sense, I guess, because if we see all that, we have to assume that the what are they called? The Chucky dolls? The good boy doll? Good guy dolls. We have to assume that all good guy dolls have that. Because, having his soul infused into the doll didn't add, structure and things. So they all have that, which would be awesome. It's awesome. It would be so cool to have that doll that could actually move around and stuff.
It's a high-end toy.
Yeah, but also super creepy. But the thing that reanimates him, the thing that's the least believable in this, is the voodoo.
Sure.
The voodoo gets a bit of time because Charles Lee Ray, Chucky, goes back to confront the voodoo priest who taught him how to bring himself back to life.
Yeah, Papa Shango.
Yeah, Papa Shango. And basically, it's just a scene making fun of voodoo. I don't understand, like the voodoo priest seems serious, but like the action that occurs within that seems comical.
Right.
Chucky pulls out a voodoo doll of the guy that's like, crude and makes. I don't understand how voodoo dolls are supposed to work.
That's a quality leg break, though.
Yeah, well, it's a great leg break for sure. It's awesome. But like, why would a voodoo priest have a voodoo doll of himself laying around?
Yeah, that was a question that I had. I was like, okay, was that already there, or is that one that like Chucky had made in advance?
Chucky says it was there. Chucky says you shouldn't show people where these things are or whatever. So like, apparently it was there, and while Charles Lee Ray was over one time, was like, hey, let me show you where I keep my voodoo doll.
Just so you know.
Yeah, just so you know. In case you ever need to voodoo me, here it is. Like, why? That's stupid. That makes no sense. And so, like, the inclusion of voodoo, it has, like, an element forged to it that is stupidity. Mm-hmm. Like, the voodoo priest is shown as being stupid. That makes no sense.
I can see that, yeah.
I mean, I get why you would do that just for this particular instance, but you would have to have other voodoo scenes where people aren't being stupid for it to not be an automatic equation, voodoo equals stupid. But to say voodoo equals stupid in a movie that is based off the fact that a serial killer used voodoo to live on into a doll is saying, well, our entire premise is stupid. Like, it's not, though. It's a good premise. I like the premise.
Yeah.
When he meets the voodoo priest, I want it to be more of a battle. I want it to be more of like the voodoo priest actually knows how to handle this. He taught him how to do this. He should, it should be some Voldemort versus Dumbledore type of shit.
Yeah, you're right. That could have been a lot cooler. He does seem quite weak and powerless against this doll holding a doll.
Yeah, but that does give us the dying breaths exposition, which is so important.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's the reason why it had to take us there, so that we could get the whole, you got to put your soul into the person who you revealed yourself to first. I've got a date with a 6-year-old boy. That's that's a dual quote, Chucky and fucking Jeepers Creepers Victor Salva.
They said it to each other and the fists bumped.
Yeah. Sames. Ditto.
Oh man, people should start, just for fun, I think Victor Salva should become one of the monsters we talk about when we talk about horror movies.
Yeah.
Like, let's not talk about the creeper. Let's just throw Victor Salva in there. There's Jason, there's Freddy, there's Chucker, there's Victor Salva.
And I was thinking about this earlier. I think it would be really cool to see an alternate timeline sequel where the spirit of Chucky does, manage to go back into the 6-year-old kid and just live as a 6-year-old kid.
Uh-huh.
But then Victor Salva tries to molest him, and he murders the fuck out of him, and Chucky becomes a good guy. It's a heel to face turn.
Oh shit! And then the rest of the movie is Chucky fighting Francis Ford Coppola and his family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Your wine is only kind of okay.
Most of the time it's
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I mean, seriously, get it together. Captain Dreamo or whatever. What was that? What was that thing he did for Disney with Michael Jackson?
Yeah. Oh, God, I forgot about that. Holy shit.
And Godfather 3. Let's just go ahead and put that. You know what? The worst crime is constantly giving money to a convicted child rapist. But number 2 is Godfather 3.
So I've heard. I've actually never seen Godfather 3.
Don't waste your time.
That's what I've heard, man. That's what I've heard. Now, one of the things in this movie that I spotted this last time that I watched it that does crack me up many times throughout the flick, of course, in the movie, we're not given an exact reason why. It's kind of speculated that maybe Charles Lee Ray killed him in life. But our main kid here doesn't have a dad. His dad is dead, right?
Yeah.
Did you notice how in several different rooms throughout their apartment, there is the same picture of the dad?
No. It's just the same picture?
It's the exact same picture. There's like a framed like 8x10 of the dad in like a red sweater with like a blue background. It's like in the kids' room and it's like in the living room too.
Wow.
It's fucking hilarious. It reminds me of like,
why? What? Why? What?
I know. Did you ever watch Strangers with Candy?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember how there was always that picture of Principal Blackman in like every room for some reason in that show? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Principal Blackman, who was a black man. So there you go.
So like the wife is so obsessed with her husband's death that she's like, well, I only have the one picture of him.
Yeah.
So I'll just get a lot of copies.
Yeah, one in every room.
Were they just married? Why doesn't she have more pictures?
I don't know, man. That's the only fucking one. And it's all over the fucking place. It's the same picture. If you next time you watch it, try to pay attention to it and you'll notice
I will.
It's pretty great, man. Now, one thing I will say this movie got right, and this is fresh on my mind because we just watched Halloween earlier tonight. You know, in the opening of that flick where we have young Michael Myers stalking through the house to kill his sister, he's like a 6-year-old kid, but he's like 7 feet tall, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
This movie actually got the perspective thing right. The scenes where
we get,
yeah, like little, Chucky eye view running through, going into that apartment, that derelict apartment and stuff like that. It's actually low to the ground. Very well played. Y'all did it right. Good job. Gold star.
Yeah, and it does keep up, which isn't a thing that they keep going the whole time, but it does keep up the idea, well, it may be the kid.
Right, yeah. A little fake out.
Yeah, so, like, I like that doesn't last the entire time. I like that the end of the movie isn't like, was it the kid or the doll?
Yeah.
But I like that it does build up that tension early because it makes you more afraid of the doll when it finally does move.
Totally.
Like, we see the doll move and talk, but it's like, it's supposed to do that as far as we understand. It's not until she is like, I'm going to throw you in the fire or whatever, that he's like, fuck you, bitch. He gets like, like, when people talk about Nightmare on Elm Street, it's like, well, Freddy calls people bitch a lot.
Oh, man.
Chucky calls people bitch a lot. Chucky calls everybody bitch all the time and is always ready with a fuck you. So,
oh, man, dude. He is hot.
He really is. He's ready to go to war with whether or not you think you're a bitch. He wants to fight that out.
What do you think about the very ending of the movie? Like the last shot that we get where it's the little kid walking out the door and he turns around and the camera just kind of freezes on him. What do you think that means?
I don't know. I know. It doesn't have the impact that it should have, I don't think. Like, yeah. I guess if you are making the movie where it's like, was it the doll or the kid, then that shot's good. Yeah. But there's no question at a certain point. It was the doll. We all see it. So, like,
I think they were trying to capture some of that, like, the very last shot of The Omen is very similar, too, where the kid just kind of has a slight sort of smirk on his face, like this mischievous, like, this is going all according to plan. But I think they tried to do a little bit of that. But, What I wonder about is like if they were trying to get it into your head that like maybe, because at some point in there, Chucky started the ritual to like put part of his soul into the kid's body. He started it, but didn't get to finish it. And I kind of wonder if they were trying to imply that like maybe part of it
made it.
Yeah, like he'd gotten Horcruxed or something, you know.
Oh shit, he's a Horcrux.
Which I think could have been really cool. Again, kind of going back to that thing I was talking about a second ago, it actually would have been really neat to see a flick where Chucky just goes on and lives in the body of this like 6-year-old, but he's actually a fucking serial killer, but he's got to like hide it from everybody. That could actually be, I think, a pretty fucking sick movie. And actually, too, think about how cool that would be. Child's Play Part 1 is about this possessed doll. Child's Play Part 2 is about this possessed kid. Like, that would have been badass, dude.
Yeah, no, that would be much more interesting than what Child's Play 2 really was.
I haven't seen Child's Play 2. Is it more of the same?
Just more of the same, yeah. I think that's true of every Child's Play movie. It's just more of the same. I haven't rewatched them in a long time, and I will, and we should, obviously. But as far as I remember, there's just no great development in future Child's Play movies.
Yeah.
Just like Halloween. Halloween
right.
has sequel trouble. Like
definitely.
Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, the sequels, they just add more and more awesomeness. They can get ridiculous and obviously be stupid, etc., but like they add more and more each time. Whereas, as far as I remember with the Child's Play movies, it's just like, oh right, it's a doll.
Yeah, I'd like to explore more of like what Charles Lee Ray's origins were and shit like that. Like I'd like to know about that.
Well, he used to work for Saruman the White, and then he became Saruman the Gray. Mm-hmm. And there's a scene where he gets a big tear in his eye when he sees all the Uruk-hai. And I've always thought that, like, Brad Dourif is so good in everything. Especially, have you watched Deadwood?
No, I haven't.
Oh, well,
he's
watch Deadwood. Yeah, he's in that, like, every episode. Anyway, aside from Deadwood, that scene where he has that huge tear roll down his eye at the side of the Uruk-hai is one of the best moments for Brad Dourif. Like, it's just perfect. It's just so, like, it's, like, gross and sick and, like, awesome at the same time.
What do you think is the best kill in the movie?
Oh, man. Okay. So, I love the voodoo kill. The breaking of the leg, as we said earlier, is awesome. Honestly, he kills what, 3 people?
Yeah, because there's the is she like an aunt or just a friend that falls through the window?
Yeah, I think she's just a friend, the babysitter. She gets killed.
I like her getting whacked with that hammer on the forehead. That's just like a real blunt fucking kill.
Yeah, and the suspense of that one is good.
Yeah, it is.
Whereas the voodoo kill is more like you know what's coming. So I'd say that's probably the best one is the babysitter kill.
I really like the fucking guy in the children's home that gets like the electroshock thing on his head.
Oh right, yeah,
He's got like blood coming out of his eyes and shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking awesome, man. And it's just like a bunch of like, here's a clip of him getting electrocuted. Here's something else. Here's another clip, and now he's kind of charred. Like obvious, blatant cuts. There's no wow, how'd they do that? But yeah, I loved all the blood coming out of his nose and his eyes and stuff. I thought that was really brutal.
That kill would have had more effect if they had like set up that doctor was, Charles Lee Ray's doctor in prison or something.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, because like the voodoo kill makes sense, the babysitter kill makes sense, but like all he had to do with that doctor is just pretend to be a doll.
That's true. That was kind of a gimme kind of kill, wasn't it?
Yeah. But it is the best. It is the coolest kill by far. You're right.
Yeah, definitely so, man. Well, Steve, overall, what's your closing thoughts about this flick, and what would you rate this on a scale of about a 1 to a 10?
Okay, well, the direction of this is really good. Tom Holland is good. Mm-hmm. If you don't think Tom Holland's good, watch Fright Night. You'll get it.
So good.
Fright Night, Child's Play, these are good movies. He did a great job with them. The special effects of this movie are so awesome.
Great.
That is the doll, those eye movements, mouth movements, etc. That is somebody wearing a prosthetic, like remote control. There's somebody making those faces off screen, and they're doing it great. Like,
that's really cool.
They're so good. The doll always looks scary, whether it's just a doll, whether it's the animatronic, or whether it's a little person in a mask. It always looks scary. The story is good. It moves. Like, there aren't lulls in the way that horror movies often fall into lulls. This movie just fucking moves and adds new stuff to the... Like, it's almost like the person making this movie was like, oh, there will be sequels to this for sure.
Sure.
And they were like, let's just add in awesome, interesting shit to build sequels off of. So it's got cool stuff, and not everything's explained, which I love in a horror movie. It also has the major problem of it's a doll. And the moment you start wrestling with it, you should win. I don't know, though. It might have weird voodoo strength, but barring that, it seems a little less scary the moment there are confrontations between the doll and people.
Like, maybe the kills could have been achieved by him setting elaborate traps that would make it look like it was an accident that these people got killed or something.
Absolutely. Or just getting the element of surprise with a weapon, like he did with the babysitter.
Sure, yeah, because you don't have to be super strong if you have a fucking razor. You can always cut somebody's throat. It's not hard to do. Yeah,
exactly. So a little bit of that takes away some of the fear, and also the kid is not a good actor, but at that age it's hard to get an actor who could handle all of this. He does fine with it, I would say.
Do you notice how the whole movie, like, he never really says Chucky, he says Chucky?
Yeah, he does. Why? He has a lot of pauses between he's learning a word.
Oh, totally. What? So yeah. Chucky.
But I would say, all in all, this is a great movie. It spawned a fear in tons of people. Like, it would be like saying Pennywise isn't scary to say Chucky isn't scary. Like,
right.
It's stuck with so many people that obviously it is scary. You just have to be in the right group at the right time watching it.
Sure.
As an adult, of course, Chucky's not scary. That's exactly my point, is that, well, I'm bigger than it, I could take it. But Chucky is scary, especially for kids, maybe tweens. And so I can't take a lot away from it. There's not a lot to say negative about it, but it's not a 10 for sure. I would say this is a 7.5.
Right on, man. I think that's pretty fair. I agree with a lot of the stuff that you're saying here. I think the direction is cool. I think the movie looks really good and has some really good shots in it. I feel like they know how to shoot. They know how to shoot that doll. Like, they know when they should show it full body. They know when it should just be an arm or just a head. Like, there's not really a lot of full body shots of the doll when it's not a little person in a suit. Like, it is very, very cleverly shot, I think, to keep kind of that suspension of disbelief. And like you said, the facial features and stuff like that are really fucking unnerving in a lot of ways. They're nightmarish. Like, it has that nightmarish quality that you had when you were a kid of, like, weird shit you dream about where it would look right but not quite right. I think it really nails that. I think the soundtrack has some pretty good stuff in it too. And there are some good performances. Brad Dourif obviously steals the show. Yeah, but
so good.
I think the mom in it is good. And I guess now that you're pointing out some of the dumb stuff that Humperdink, maybe some of the dumb stuff that Humperdink does, maybe he's not that good, actually. But
he's fine. He's not bad. He just obviously doesn't know how to handle a gun.
He needs to take a gun safety course.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a fun watch, man. It doesn't have like a big, super badass, scary-looking baddie like Pinhead or something like that, but it's still just a cool watch. It has a really good flow to it. It doesn't overstay its welcome. The movie moves along at a pretty good clip, so I definitely do dig it, man. Not my favorite ever, but not at all unwatchable by any means ever. I think I would probably give this about I'm going to go a 6.5 out of 10.
Very good call.
Yeah, very watchable, but not Not life-changing, but a very watchable, very respectable kind of flick.
That's true. Unless you live in a house of dolls, it might change your life at that point.
Yeah. For the better.
I could get rid of a few of these.
Are you going to watch Cult of Chucky?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen all of them, so sure. I'll definitely watch it. Like,
it seems like it's trying to be a little bit more serious than the other ones.
Yeah, it does seem that way, and I don't know that seriousness is something you want to throw into the Child's Play. But I don't know. Honestly, I'll have to rewatch some of the sequels, and I know they're on like Cinemax Go and things like that, so they're pretty easy to find. I'll have to rewatch some of the sequels. I might be wrong. Maybe it was just because as a kid, yes, they do affect you. But also, as a growing child, you're also at a certain point like, okay, but I'm around dolls all the time and they don't come to life, so this isn't that scary.
Right.
Like, it kind of loses the fear element, which is why I think for, like, Bride of Chucky and things like that, they went more with a humor and Seed of Chucky, etc. So, I hope that it meshes that humor and actual good horror again.
Right on, man. I guess we will find out soon enough, as it is coming out around this week. Now, next week on the show, continuing our Halloween relevant horror movie sort of theme here, next week we've got a new Saw flick coming out. We've got Jigsaw, which I guess is going to be exploring the origins of the Jigsaw Killer. So on next week's episode, we are going to be covering the original Saw from, when was that, Steve? Like 2000-something?
2003, maybe?
I think so. I want to say 3, yeah. So we'll be talking about that one. I haven't watched that but once, so...
Would you like to play a game?
I mean, I'd like to do a podcast.
Next to you is a computer. To the right of you is your dead wife. If you use the computer right, you can jerk off before she's entirely cold. What?
What? That got weird. Well, tune in for an episode that hopefully isn't as weird as that all the way through, maybe?
It is.
Oh, okay. Well, Steve, where can they follow us on them social medias in the meantime?
Well, you can always email us, deadandlovelypod@gmail.com.
Oh.
Like to get those emails. You can also find us at deadlovelypod on Instagram, sometimes on Twitter.
Yeah.
And we have a Dead and Lovely Pod Facebook group, which is pretty damn active and fun.
Yeah, that Facebook group has been getting really good to me lately. There's been some really great humorous posts from good friends on there who I feel like really just get the cut of our jib, Steve.
That's right. How about you, Ben? Where do they find you?
You guys be sure to follow us on those, and you can find me over on Instagram and Twitter at Ben Eller Guitars, all one word, Ben Eller Guitars. Where can they find you, Steven?
At Steven Spratling, Steven with a V, the only way to spell it.
You guys, please be sure to go on iTunes, rate and review this podcast. We love doing it, and we love seeing your all's good old 5-star reviews for the show. It really helps us out a ton to show up in the search feeds and top 10 lists and shit like that. So please go on iTunes and rate us and review us. It only takes a second, but it really does help us out a lot. Keep it G-rated or else they will not post the review and it'll be deemed invalid.
But remember, Bambi is rated G, so you can kill a deer's mom in one of our comments.
Oh, yeah.
5-star reviews, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Well, thank you guys, as always, for listening to this show. We had a good time. You guys have been absolutely delightful, and we have been dead and lovely. Say goodnight, Steve.
I'm going to beat Delilah's ass.
Bye, guys.
Bye.